2024. Honourable Speaker, the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock tabled this report, tabled a preliminary report on the same inquiry in the House on Wednesday, 7th of June 2023, and the committee's report was adopted by this House on Thursday, the 3rd of August 2023. So to get further clarification, Honourable Speaker, on some of the outstanding issues, the committee held meetings with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development, and Livestock Development, the Serious Millers Association, and the millers who participated in the program independently, and not necessarily the Grain Mill Owners Association, whose report we had already concluded. Honourable Speaker, the committee did observe several things that I wish to put before the House. From the meetings, we observed the following. Number one, that there was discontent between, there was a disconnect between the President's speech and the adopted implementation framework of the subsidy. Honourable Speaker, according to the presidential directive, then the approach that was supposed to have been taken was to approach the subsidy program through waiver of the import duty. But the ministry decided to have the reduction of the price of the maize flour from the then 220, 230 shillings per 2 kilogram packet to 100 shillings. The second issue we observed, Honourable Speaker, is that there was failure by the ministry itself, the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, to make changes on the contract as proposed by the Office of the Attorney General. The Attorney General clearly proposed that there should be provision for suspension of the contract, and that provision was not in the contract. The Attorney General, Honourable Speaker, proposed that there was supposed to have been determination on the termination of the contract, provision for termination of the contract, should there be inadequate exchequer release according to Article 14, subsection 2 of that particular contract. The other issue that the Attorney General noted, Honourable Speaker, is the failure to deal out the provision on the account. Should there be no provision? Honourable Speaker, there was also the exoneration of the millers from any form of blame by the contract that the ministry gave out for signing. In this particular respect, the millers were supposed to just be free if the maize meal reached the consumers or not. After milling, post-milling responsibility was not given to them. Honourable Speaker, there was no report of the delivery of the subsidized maize flour to the last mile, where we are talking about the people, the consumers. The Ministry of Interior was supposed to have been monitoring this particular last mile consumption, and they gave no report to us as a committee. We believe probably they may have given a report to the ministry, but the ministry never provided this report to us. So they were charged with that responsibility, Honourable Speaker. On the other hand, there was also no report on the surveillance of the distribution of the maize flour itself, as to ascertain the selling of the 2 kilogram packet at 100 shillings of the shift and maize meal. Honourable Speaker, this report was not submitted to the ministry. To the committee by the ministry. There was also no discussion on the quantities to be supplied at the contractual level. The millers were supposed to produce as much as they could and sell as much as it was possible, and then submit the invoices to the ministry for payment. So there was no specific quantitative contract. The contract was more or less open. Honourable Speaker, upon assessment, we discovered that 95.1% of the maize flour sold by the Grain Mill Owners Association under the subsidy program could be traced to the consumer, and it was sold at the market price of 100 shillings per 2 kilogram packet. Honourable Speaker, we went further to find out exactly what happened, and we discovered that the farm gate sales from these small millers was 93.06%, and that which was sold through the van, what we call the van sales, was 2.94%. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, only 17.85% of the maize flour that was produced by the Cereal Millers Association was sold directly to the consumers. This is what we were able to trace as a committee, in the sense that only 9.8% was sold through what we call the van sales, the marked van sales or the branded vans, and only 8.05% was sold through the farm gate or walk-ins. We also noted that, Honourable Speaker, a total amount of 50,526.28 was paid up to the Grain Mill Owners Association, while the outstanding balance on the accounts of this particular maize flour subsidy to this association membership was 432,751,316.30 cents. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, we also established that the membership of the Cereal Millers Association that participated in the subsidy program changed from the initial 27 at the initial presentation to 29, and the explanation was the extra 2 members were omitted from the list. Honourable Speaker, we also noted that the total invoiced amount by the Cereal Millers Association was 4,495,356,547.10 cents, out of which 1,905,845,377.07 cents had been paid, and there was an outstanding balance of 2,589,511,170.05 cents. We also noted that, Honourable Speaker, members of the Cereal Millers Association approached the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, seeking for arbitration to pursue payment of the pending bills arising from the maize flour subsidy program of 2022-2023. Honourable Speaker, from the above observations, the committee made several recommendations. One of the recommendations that the committee made, Honourable Speaker, is that in future related interventions where the government has to intervene in form of a subsidy, there should be clear interpretation, layout of the executive order, and the implementation arrangements clearly laid out for information to the actors, so that those who may participate in the process, those who may wish to ask questions may be able to get the correct answers. Honourable Speaker, we also concluded that the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development should submit a report to the National Assembly within 3 months of adoption of this report, to explaining the following. Number one, the report should explain the departure from from what is interpreted as the President's focus on the subsidy, subsidizing maize flour, which was supposed to have been through the waiver of import duty, to what the ministry decided to do in terms of paying off the millers to produce and sell the maize flour. Honourable Speaker, we also expect them, the ministry, to explain how the decision to implement the program for a period of 1 month was arrived at. We would also like the ministry to explain why the program was implemented a month to the general elections. Honourable Speaker, we would also like the ministry to explain the actions that the ministry took after several prompts by the CMA or the Cereal Millers Association on the maize and wheat situation in the country and globally, and the reasons for inactions, because there were quite a number of inactions. Honourable Speaker, we would also like the ministry to explain why a certain group of millers appear to have been favoured in terms of payment compared to the rest of the millers. We also would like an explanation on why the ministry did not adopt the proposal made by the Attorney General on the contract. We would also like an explanation as to why the Cereal Millers Association are given preference on the millers, or to the other millers, in regard to the introductory engagement and meetings that were held prior to the maize flour subsidy program of 2022-2023. And finally, we would like the ministry to explain ministry, why the ministry prefers not to clear the subsidy-related debts as pending bills that are accrued from these particular processes, because we note with concern that, Honourable Speaker, there is a pending bill for the 2017-2018 maize flour subsidy, as there is also a bill for 2022-2023, among others. The other issue, Honourable Speaker, that we recommend is that the Auditor General should conduct an audit of the maize flour subsidy program for 2022-2023 to ascertain whether there was prudent use of the public resources and submit the report to the National Assembly within 3 months of adoption of this particular report. Honourable Speaker, we also recommend that the DCI should conduct the following investigations. Number one, whether the subsidy program achieved the intended objective. Number two, quality and the quantity of the maize flour produced under the program and the prices of the maize flour and where it was sold. Honourable Speaker, I would also like an investigation on if the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government submitted a report to the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development and Cooperative, then on the delivery of the subsidized maize flour to the last mile. Honourable Speaker, I would also like the DCI to investigate that the NCPB was paid 100 million as monitoring and evaluation fee, but they did not submit any report to the committee on the surveillance they made. As a result, we would like an investigation made on, to be conducted on whether the NCPB conducted their role in the subsidy program as expected and how that money was particularly used. Finally, Honourable Speaker, I would like the DCI also to investigate the milling companies as they were, to establish whether they actually milled any flour at all, as was said to have been supplied under the maize subsidy program, and actually how much of this amount they milled. Honourable Speaker, we would also like to, we have recommended the following in this particular report, that in our preliminary report on the maize flour subsidy program 2022-2023, our committee did recommend that the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development and Fisheries should proceed to pay the Grain Mill Owners Association their dues. That was a balance of around 432 million that they were owed. We also recommended that this particular amount of money should be put in the subsequent budgetary provision because some of the millers, Honourable Speaker, are collapsing as a result of having taken debts and therefore they are not able to pay. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, concerning the Cereal Millers Association, the committee recommends that 82.17% of the total maize flour that was produced under the subsidy program by the Cereal Millers Association could not be traced to the last consumer. Based on their distribution channels, because it passed through the normal distribution channels, so the Directorate of Criminal Investigation should conduct an investigation into the present, into this, and present their findings to the National Assembly within 3 months of adoption of this particular report. The National Assembly will make recommendations on whether or not that the money owed to the Cereal Millers Association should be paid, and whether to ratify or regularize the payments made to the association through use of Article 223 of the Constitution, or should it not be paid? Should it not be regularized? Honourable Speaker, we also recommend that the independent millers who participated in this particular program, because the Directorate of, should be investigated by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to find out why they participated without passing through an association, if they ever milled any maize flour at all, and through what processes they passed this maize flour, so that we can also regularize the payment that were made through Article 223 of the Constitution. Honourable Speaker, having said that, I would like to acknowledge, to thank the Office of the Speaker, the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the logistical support that they gave to this committee, sitting for so many days and traveling across the country to be able to collect this information and produce a report. Honourable Speaker, I would also like to thank the, the committee would also further like to, wish the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, the Cereal Millers Association, the Grain Mill Owners Association, and the Independent Millers for making inquiry feasible through their submissions. Finally, Honourable Speaker, I would like to express my appreciation to the members of the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock Development, Livestock Development, for the work they have done to come up with this particular report. Honourable Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to move that this House adopts the report and call upon my Vice Chair, the Honourable Brighton Yagon, member for Konoin, to second. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Have you got a seconder? Okay, proceed. Please give him the mic.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to second. During the consideration of supplementary estimate number 1 of financial year 2023, members of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock observed that 7.267 billion had been spent on maize flour subsidy program, out of which 4 billion had been paid under Article 223 of the Constitution, while 3.267 billion was yet to be paid to the millers. Honorable Speaker, the 4 billion was spent in July 2022 and presented to the Committee for Regularization through the supplementary estimate as required by Article 223 of the Constitution. The committee did not approve the expenditure on account of non-disclosure of information on who the maize flour suppliers were, the quantity of maize flour supplied, the areas in which the subsidized flour was supplied, and the retail outlets that sold the maize flour. Honorable Speaker, it is to the above reasons that the committee resolved to conduct an inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program, whose objectives were to find out whether the program achieved its objectives, establish whether the identification process of the millers was free and fair, find out if there was value for money in the execution of the program. Honorable Speaker, the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock tabled a preliminary report on the inquiry in the House on Wednesday, 7 June 2023. The committee's report was adopted by the House on Thursday, 3rd of August 2023, with the following recommendation. The 500 million Kenya shillings owed to members of the Grain Mill Owners Association should be factored in the budget estimate for financial year 2023-2024 and paid because of their computation were clear. The membership of the association that participated in the program was static, and they did not participate in maize flour subsidy program for financial year 2017-2018. Honorable Speaker, the other recommendation was that the 841,784,292 Kenya shillings was paid to GMOA under Article 223 of the Constitution be regularized because the committee established that there was value for money on the part of the association. The Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development Department should come up with a policy on how to engage in future subsidy programs within 3 months of adoption of this report and submit a copy of the same to the committee. It is also said that it is also sad to note that none of the above recommendations have been implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Department. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I second.
Thank you. Honorable members, allow me to now propose the question. Honorable members, I propose the question that the House adopts the second report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on the inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program for the financial year 2022-2023 laid on the table of this House on Tuesday, 27th February 2024. And honorable members, I would like you to note that the time that was allotted for this debate is 5 minutes for each member, including the majority leader, and the total amount of time allocated is 2.5 hours. So thank you. Yes, Honorable DK, what is do you have a point of order?
Yes, okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a member of the Agriculture Committee, I rise to support the report tabled by our chair, our APO chair. First, on this maize subsidy program that was actually done just before the elections, our investigations, which has taken more than 6 months, revealed quite a lot of inconsistencies that we feel right from start there was no value for money. Secondly, you realize from the report we have categorized the millers into 2 types. There are the large-scale millers, that is the CMA, and the small-scale millers, that is the GMOA. From the onset, the meeting that was done by the ministry at State House actually involved the CMA, that is the large-scale millers. They are the ones who design the architecture. And if you look at it closely, by the time they were meeting, the large-scale millers were owed around 500 million, which actually from the design, they were actually paid before the project could begin. From the design, it was meant that there was a whole architecture to make sure that at least it reaches the consumer. But on auditing the process, we found out that there was no way in which you could know that actually the subsidized floor actually reached the consumer. Because at the end of the day, there was no mechanism to stop a miller from releasing the floor in between they are taken for auditing purposes. So from our investigations, the designers of the program, which is the Ministry of Agriculture, the state actors, together with the large-scale millers, actually colluded to defraud this country of over 7.6 billion. And from looking at the payment that was already made through Article 223, that is expenditure through Article 223, they were able to spend around 4 billion, and 500 million went into paying the arrears of 2017-2018. But now the porting of the GMOA, that is the small-scale millers, they were only factored in when the entire architecture had been done, and they were very forthright. When they appeared in the committee, they were able to say that they didn't see that mechanism of them delivering to the consumer. They just milled the floor, and outside their gate, there were so many people who wanted the floor, and they just distributed to them without necessarily knowing what they were supposed to do. So we felt that we don't have to, we cannot punish the millers who didn't know the architecture, who didn't know what they were going on, and they actually milled and sold the floor to whoever was outside their gate. But actually, the culprits are the Ministry of Agriculture, the CMA, and the state actors. And we feel that there was no value for money. Hence, the money that the CMA are asking for should be referred actually to the DCI for further investigations. Thank you.
Member for Kitui Central, the Honorable Makale Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Chair, Agriculture Committee, and its members for this report, which is actually has taken a lot of time to be presented to this House. Honorable Speaker, this matter of maize subsidy was a very serious matter during the 12th Parliament. And I remember one of the key issues which became a very hot potato for this matter was the issue of use of 223 to pay some of these bills. So, Honorable Speaker, even though the recommendations are very good, I've listened to the recommendations, I'm very disappointed with the timing. Because, Honorable Speaker, this matter, this main subsidy program was actually designed to steal public funds. And in a situation where programs are designed to steal public funds, I think as a House, we need to fast track the recommendation so that action is taken. Honorable Speaker, when you look at this report, a number of gaps have been identified. The first gap is, even when you look at the contracts which were signed, they were not clear what needed to be done and what needed not to be done. When you look at what the President had in mind in terms of this program, there was a lot of distortion in terms of the implementers not adhering to the policy issues. Honorable Speaker, even what catches my eye, Honorable Speaker, is the issue where, when it came to matters of payment, Honorable Speaker, some millers were actually favored as opposed to others. And you wonder, in a public arrangement, why would one want to favor a miller in terms of payment and not pay others? To me, these are the issues, Honorable Speaker. Another thing, Honorable Speaker, which is also important, is the issue of, which has been brought out in this report, and which I think is really criminal, is even the committee is saying they are not even sure whether actually the millers did mill the flour, which means some millers might have been paid for flour which was never distributed or even which was never produced. And in that case, Honorable Speaker, then it means that when you look at this, it means there must have been people who from the word go had planned that this program will be used to steal public resources. And that's why I agree, even though it is coming too late in the day, with the proposal that, Honorable Speaker, we need a special audit for this program so that the Auditor General takes up this matter, does thorough audit of the program, and on the basis of that, we should see some people, Honorable Speaker, being taken to court. And that's why the recommendation also relating to the DCI, that the DCI needs to do further investigation on a number of issues, is also very important, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, I think we must learn our lessons from this program. That when you look at it, it didn't have time limits in terms of how long it should have been implemented. But it was only done for 1 month as we approach elections, which means, all said, Honorable Speaker, all said and done, people were looking for money to fund their campaigns. And in such a situation, Honorable Speaker, I think there is no law in this country which allows politicians to use public money to finance their campaigns. So this is against the law, Honorable Speaker, and I think really action must be taken. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, the worst bit of it is the large-scale millers, Honorable Speaker, were paid their money, most of them. The small-scale millers who have small businesses, who are trying to get into the market, Honorable Speaker, were not paid. And you ask yourself, why were the small-scale farmers not paid and the large ones were paid? Basically because the small-scale millers, Honorable Speaker, were not able to give the kickback in advance. The large ones could do that, the small ones were not able to do that, and that's why up to now they have not been paid. And the committee is pleading the budget committee to factor in the budget for them. I think, Honorable Speaker, as a House, we must make sure that this time the money for these small-scale millers is in the budget, and more so, Honorable Speaker, in the supplementary budget, so that they get their money and they can continue their life in terms of doing their business. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support, but I still insist we need to fast-track this report in terms of recommendation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kwanza, Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
There I am, Madam Speaker. I'm equally disappointed, and as clearly stated by Chairman of the Agriculture Committee, who's sitting in front of me, there's something that we have to do. This is just some people didn't do their work, particularly the ministry. And as stated, the recommendation from the committee is very, very clear that the Ministry of Agriculture actually, within 3 months, should come up with a report and tell us exactly what happened in this house, because we oversight that ministry and looks at there's a problem in the ministry. And Madam Speaker, it's no doubt. Similarly, as stated by the chairman very clearly, of course, the auditors also should conduct the audit of this maize flour program, so that we then see whether the resources were used properly or not. As just mentioned by the previous speaker, something must have happened, because this is the time we were going for election. You never know. They found a loophole in getting the money from the government to do things that are not rightly so. More especially, Madam Speaker, I have, there was also preference of the millers, as stated by my chairman here. They preferred certain millers. And also, therefore, again, we have to ask the integrity of the whole exercise by the ministry. So that, again, is something that is very, very clear here. And therefore, people are looking at us to see whether this is actually the right thing that the ministry did or not. More especially, the price of and I'm concerned about the consumers, because you see, maize flour is actually is